This is the oldest island on our planet. Home to strange animals with intriguing origins. Where primates fly through the trees. And dog-like creatures prowl like cats. Animals found here and nowhere else on Earth pose tantalizing clues to an evolutionary riddle. But the greatest zoologist of his time sailed right by. What would Charles Darwin have seen had the Beagle dropped anchor on these shores? What mysteries would he unravel if he'd set foot on Madagascar? May 1836. The HMS Beagle approaches the island of Madagascar. On board is a 27-year-old British naturalist named Charles Darwin. He's been aboard the ship circumnavigating the globe for 4.5 years. Every time it lands, he explores. He's fascinated by the animals he finds, and he records his thoughts in great detail. He notices patterns in nature, and he begins to form a theory. But the HMS Beagle is a research ship with its own agenda. The captain's mission is to survey the coast of South America and take coordinates around the world. May 9th, 1836, the Beagle approaches Madagascar, close enough to rise and fall on the swell above its reefs. But it sails right past without making landfall, heading instead for mainland Africa. Darwin must have gazed at this dense jungle, knowing nothing of the natural wonders he was missing. But what if, instead, the ship had moored here? What if Darwin had had the chance to explore? He would find lush rainforests in the east, pristine wetlands along the coasts, a large expanse of central grassland plains, a mountainous spine rising above 9,000 feet, dry, spiny forests in the south and west, all surrounded by coral reefs. A diverse Eden, where each animal has adapted in unique and astonishing ways. This is the story of the mysterious creatures Darwin would have seen if his voyage had made just one more stop. Here in the dry western forests, a strange beast lurks among 800-year-old trees. Muscular, powerful. But what is it? Young Charles would struggle to pinpoint its ancestry. Semi-retractable claws, large eye sockets, and sharp teeth point to the cat family. But a long neck and dog-like face suggest otherwise. Though Darwin might not have seen leopards, tigers, and jaguars, he would know of their existence. He wrote in his journal, "In the cat tribe, most of the species are striped or spotted in lines. But this creature has no markings. It is neither dog nor cat." and its call is more like that of a goose. It's a fossa, a predatory enigma found nowhere else on Earth. These sounds lure this male from his territory into unfamiliar ground. It's November, the end of the dry season, the only time of year when fossa come together to mate. Like all other fossa males within earshot, he's drawn to this female. But he has got here first. He sends a signal to other males in the area, marking the ground with secretions from the base of his tail. Finding her was the easy part. Now his climbing skills will be put to the test. He doesn't have long. Competition is on the way. He might be the first to arrive, but female fossa are ruthless, choosing only the fittest and strongest males. She will eject from the tree any suitor that doesn't meet with her approval. She eyes up her potential mate and signals her acceptance. It's a precarious process that can last for several hours. Another male arrives. This could be trouble. The second male is younger and less experienced, and she's still locked in coitus with the first. A queue forms. Male number 3 arrives. He's larger and older, and might be a better choice than her first suitor. The males might have to fight it out, but a battle this high above ground could put them all in hot water. There are now 3 competing male fossas in the tree. And still, the female remains locked with the first. Finally, she frees herself and attacks the newest arrival. Fusa females are clearly in charge when it comes to mating. She returns to her first suitor. He'll be one of up to 8 males she'll mate with over the coming week. As more arrive, they must all wait in line until she's ready. Darwin had traveled the world, and yet never would have seen anything quite like the Fusa, nor the animals it hunted. This looks like a monkey, but it isn't. And those are very strange toes. Spotted. The only escape here is up. This is an island of climbers. But the Fusa can climb too. The prey, a lemur, escapes to the high, thinner branches. For millions of years, these two animals have evolved side by side, both equally well adapted to this forested realm. But they bear no resemblance to anything Darwin would have seen elsewhere. He might well have asked, where did these arboreal creatures come from? The closest landmass to Madagascar is Africa, 250 miles across the Indian Ocean. That would surely have been his first guess. And he'd be right. Young Charles wouldn't have known it at the time, but Madagascar was once attached to Africa. It wasn't until 1912 that geologists proposed the theory of today's continents drifting apart from a single landmass. 180 million years ago, the giant southern supercontinent, Gondwanaland, began to break apart. Madagascar split from Africa, and then from India. 80 million years ago, it was on its own. Modern genetic studies reveal that the Fusa's ancestor, which it shares with the mongoose, did indeed come from Africa. But here's the conundrum. The Fusa only colonized Madagascar long after it separated from Africa. So how did this burly land mammal get here? It couldn't swim, and it surely couldn't fly. The most popular theory today? Rafting. Great floods washed trees and rafts of vegetation out to sea. And with them, castaways carried on strong currents to faraway lands. Back then, ocean circulation followed a slightly different pattern. For about 30 million years, powerful currents flowed east from Africa to Madagascar, providing the window for this bizarre migration. By the time the Fusa's ancestor arrived, it was late to the party. Numerous species had already made this crossing. One of them, a tiny primate, arriving 30 million years ahead of the Fusa. It wasn't a monkey, because monkeys hadn't evolved yet. Isolated on this island, this primitive primate gave rise to something else completely. Lemurs. Weighing just over an ounce, This nocturnal mouse lemur is one of the smallest primates in the world. During the heat of the day, she slows her metabolism in a state of torpor to conserve energy and water. Perhaps this is how her ancestors survived the ocean crossing. Night falls. Temperatures drop. Sleepy becomes tenacious. Her eyes contain a light-reflecting layer, which helps her to see in the dark, while her sensitive nose leads her to flowers laden with pollen. She devours the protein-packed superfood. But that's just her starter. The fragrant aroma draws in her second course. She's a gatherer, but she's also a hunter. And the darkness makes it easy for her. When the lemur's ancestral castaways arrived on these shores, there were no large predators to threaten them and no other primates competing for life in the trees. This was lemur paradise, waiting to be colonized. These new primates quickly explored every corner of the island, filling each new habitat they came across. On the Galapagos Islands, Darwin had noted variation in 13 species of finches. They helped inspire his theory of evolution and natural selection. But lemur adaptation may have blown his mind. From those few early pioneers, more than 100 species of lemur evolved. That's more than a third of all primate species on the planet, found only here on Madagascar. Some have teeth adapted to crush and consume seeds, while others eat only the fruit or leaves. Some sleep high up in the canopy, while others shelter inside tree hollows. If young Charles had wandered into the northeastern forests of Madagascar, he'd have heard these haunting calls. They come from the largest lemur on the island. This is an injury. It uses long legs to bounce sideways through the trees, able to launch itself up to 30 feet. It seems to almost fly. Neither monkey nor ape Lemurs' evolutionary line split off from other primates 65 million years ago. Some ancient primate traits Darwin would have recognized: a large upright body, lack of a prehensile tail, defined fingers, and nails instead of claws. Injuries live in small family groups, a monogamous pair and their offspring. The youngster is just a few months old. He'd better hold on. He's starting to take his first steps, but it'll be another year before he's able to fly through the canopy like his mother. Each day, the family searches for the freshest fruits and flowers, using their highly tuned sense of smell. They eat more than 70 different plant species, only found in these northeastern forests. At 2.5 feet tall, Injuries are the largest lemurs on Madagascar today. But they're tiny compared to their ancestors that once lived here. Archaeoinjuries, a giant lemur weighing up to 440 pounds, as much as an adult male gorilla. They were among the largest primates ever to have walked the earth. The first humans to set foot on Madagascar, about 2,000 years ago, would have seen them walking and even swinging on low branches. But about 1,000 years later, they went extinct. If, in 1836, Darwin had reached the interior, he would have noticed rich rainforest giving way to wetlands lined with giant bamboo. Here, he would find the most highly specialized lemur of all, a creature able to eat something poisonous. This is the greater bamboo lemur. Darwin would have seen them across Madagascar, but today there are fewer than 500 individuals left. Until recently, the species was thought to be almost extinct, save for one location in the southeast. Then, this group was discovered 250 miles north, in an area where they hadn't been seen for more than a century. Along with the giant and red pandas, these are among the few mammals in the world that can eat bamboo. Just a few ounces of this plant contains enough cyanide to kill a human, but it is all they eat. An enzyme in their stomach enables them to neutralize the cyanide. Sharp teeth help them to bite through the hard, pithy exterior to access the soft flesh inside. These adaptations allow this lemur to thrive on a plant that no other lemur can exploit. But year by year, Madagascar's dry season is getting longer, reducing the fresh green shoots the bamboo lemur relies on. If these lemurs are to survive, they must adapt to a new source of food. But can they make the transition in time? Some 20 million years after lemurs arrived on these shores, yet another castaway made its way across from Africa. By then, the treetops were dominated by lemurs. But below the canopy was a dark world for the taking. The shadows of Madagascar's eastern forests is where its descendants still lurk today. This strange creature would have surely confused the young Charles Darwin. It looks like a shrew with its long snout. Or it could be mistaken for a hedgehog with a spiny coat. But it's neither. It's a lowland streaked tenrec, one of around 30 tenrec species that are found only on Madagascar. Surprisingly, the tenrec's ancestor in Africa also gave rise to elephants, aardvarks, and manatees. Here on Madagascar, just like the lemurs, tenrecs diversified to fill almost every available niche. On the ground, in the trees, and even in water. These babies are just 3 weeks old. But mom's had enough of feeding them. It's time to get them out of the nest. Their eyesight is poor, so they rely on smell and hearing to find food. Their spines will protect them against predators, but they also double up as a communication device. By rubbing them together, they create vibrations, which they use to alert each other of potential danger. A wireless security network. The youngsters will stay with mother for another few weeks, and then they're on their own. The family of 5 sets about finding food. But a thunderstorm interrupts their foraging. These central eastern forests are doused often with tropical rain. As scary as it might seem, the downpour could be very helpful. The forest floor comes alive with their favorite food, earthworms. It's a tenrec family feast, and the kids have shocking table manners. Worms will be hard to come by in the drier winter months. The youngsters need to make the most of the plentiful supply while they can. If Madagascar's tenrecs, lemurs, and the fossa all came from Africa, where are the lions, giraffes, and antelopes? Darwin would have noted an absence of these typical African mammals. But if he'd stopped here in 1836, he might have recognized one: the hippo. There are none on the island today, but 3 distinct species once lived in Madagascar, the last of which were seen little more than a century ago. It's 250 miles across the Mozambique Channel, and hippos cannot swim. They're semi-aquatic, only able to walk along the bottom of a river or lake. So how did they cross the ocean from Africa? Perhaps water levels were much lower then, exposing a land bridge across the channel. A question that is yet to be answered. The island's hippos were small, standing only 2.5 feet tall, but their ancestors were considerably bigger. Farther back in the island's history, Madagascar was ruled by giants. Gorilla-sized archaeoindris swung from the trees. A giant fossa, more than 3 times the size of those today, patrolled the forests. An elephant bird called Varombe Titan stood 10 feet tall, weighed almost a ton, and laid 12-inch long eggs. But none of these giants were alive when Darwin sailed by. It took just 5 weeks observing life on the Galapagos Islands to inspire Darwin to write The Origin of Species. What insights would he have had if he'd stopped on these shores? He missed out on this spectacular diversity of new life forms and strange animal behaviors. Yet his writings apply to Madagascar perfectly. From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved. Survival here means blending in. Even with his attention to detail, he might not have seen this animal. The leaf-tailed gecko. Even the familiar here is unfamiliar. These are chameleons. There are more than 160 species globally, almost half of which live only here in Madagascar. From the smallest, the inch-long Bruchisia, to the largest, the size of a small cat, the Parsons chameleon. It grows up to 27 inches from nose to tail tip. It can spot prey up to 30 feet away. But reaching it can be slow going. Its skin is made up of millions of chromatophores, light-reflecting cells that help it to move unnoticed. Once the prey is in range, there's no escape. Its tongue, which is twice its body length, can accelerate at the equivalent of 0 to 60 miles per hour in 10 milliseconds. Today, there is still much to discover on Madagascar. In the last 20 years, more than 600 new species have been found. The most elusive creature on the island is an animal that was thought to be extinct for 2 decades, only rediscovered in 1957. If Darwin had stayed a night in this forest, it would have startled him for sure. This is an eye-eye. It leaps like a lemur. Has the long bushy tail of a fox. And gnarled spidery claws. Rodent-like incisors. Eyes that seem to look right through you. Giant, floppy ears to amplify the smallest sounds. And a long middle finger with a sinister hook. The eye-eye scours the dark forest for food. The elongated finger taps at the bark. Vibrations give away empty spaces where grubs and other prey hide. The long, hooked digit leaves the defenseless larvae with no escape. Sharp incisors drill through bark with mechanical efficiency. The eye-eye has evolved to fill the niche occupied elsewhere by woodpeckers. But its precise place in the evolutionary tree remains a mystery. Seen locally as a harbinger of death, few animals have inspired as many myths. Not even the Galapagos has an answer to this. The emergence of highly specialized creatures like the eye-eye is a result of Madagascar's long isolation. The island is one of the world's greatest evolutionary laboratories, and not just for animals. More than 8,000 species of plants here are found nowhere else on Earth. For all the wonders of the natural world that Charles Darwin missed, he did once hold a piece of Madagascar in his hand. In 1862, long after Darwin returned from his life-changing voyage, he was sent some unusual orchids from a famous British grower. One of them was from Madagascar. On studying it, Darwin noticed its 12-inch long nectarine. He predicted that there must be an animal on the island with a 12-inch long tongue. How else could this flower be pollinated? Then, in 1903, some 20 years after Darwin's death, a moth was discovered in Madagascar with a tongue 12 inches long. Charles Darwin was a man ahead of his time. He had predicted an animal's existence decades before it was discovered. The moth became known as the predicted one. Madagascar is truly an island of marvels, the culmination of millions of years of isolation, pioneered by castaways that arrived here and the diverse habitats they adapted to. But had he stopped, Darwin would have seen just a fraction of the species that once lived here. Something happened 2,000 years ago that changed the course of the island's evolution forever. The arrival of a devastating super predator. Man. Since humans arrived, more than 90% of the original forest has been lost. Now will come the true test for Madagascar's residents and for Darwin's adage. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. The animals seen here today are the island's success stories, the winners of what Darwin called natural selection. Many others have been lost along the way. But today's habitat change outpaces animals' ability to adapt. If evolution can't keep up, this incredible diversity could be gone in a geological heartbeat. What will the next chapter hold in the story of this extraordinary island? What creatures will survive on Madagascar?